strong.
Hi, and welcome to Funny Minds. I'm your host, Lynn B., and my co-host is
Edward Best.
Okay. And today we have the pleasure of having Steve Harper on our show. Steve is a world traveler. He's an author of comics, an illustrator, a teacher, and
Jazz musician.
Yes, and he's got the coolest stash going. Like, what was it? What was the guy in hockey, Lanny McDonald? Did anybody remember him? Well, maybe not.
Don't think with that one. I get the Pringles from that a lot.
Oh, do you really? Well, welcome to the show, Steven Harper. How are you?
Oh, fantastic. How about yourself?
I'm great. I'm really great. I've got a date with Mickey this Saturday, so I'm really excited. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I know. Just throw that in. Just to be interesting.
Mickey Mouse.
Mickey Mouse. Mickey. Yeah, I meant Mickey Mouse. I say Mickey, I think everybody just knows it's Mickey Mouse.
Honestly, I assumed it was. So.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
So Steve, you're a man cut of the same cloth as a musician. I read up a lot about you, a lot of jazz roots. Obviously, your dad, big influence.
Yeah, my dad actually was more into classical, and that's sort of where the classical side of my life comes from. And really, my mom is sort of more the jazz rock influence. That's
okay.
My dad was always into the long hair classical music.
So you had mom and dad. You had the double threat going on there.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Absolutely. And everybody in my family plays something. So it really wasn't a question of if you play an instrument. It was sort of like, what would you play?
What are you going to play? So
right.
what do you play?
Well, I started off on cello when I was a kid, and I still play. And then when I was about in 8th grade, I started on playing guitar, and I've been playing it's been about 40 years now.
Wow. Okay. That's good.
So I play guitar mostly. I play with a bunch of jazz bands here on the Gulf Coast. I also play banjo. I play with some traditional Dixieland bands here as well.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I've been playing ukulele as well.
Ukulele? I don't think I've ever met anybody that played a ukulele.
Well, you probably have. It's just most people don't really play them seriously.
Oh, or they don't admit it.
Right.
Steve, where are you at?
I'm in Diamond Head, Mississippi, which is like it's just this side. Well, it's just to the east of New Orleans.
Okay.
So I always like to just say it's on the other side of the swamp from New Orleans.
Because you said the Gulf Coast, and I was like, because I'm in Tampa.
Oh, okay, right.
So that can mean a lot of things. So I now I know your neck of the woods. As a matter of fact, I was just up in New Orleans, but great area, and a
lot of good jazz up there too.
So
absolutely.
My God, are you kidding me? It was incredible. So as a guitarist, your dad obviously was a serious classical. Obviously he was, involved with South Alabama University, Oklahoma State. He was big time.
Yeah.
And you moved on and you picked up the guitar, which that's my cup of tea. So I love that. Who were some of your personal influences guitar wise?
Are
we going Mike Stern? Are we going to go back there? Or we?
I actually started when I was in high school, so it was about 1986, 87, right around there.
Right, my day and age.
I actually was listening to a lot of punk bands, and then I kind of made a connection between the punk bands and a lot of like the old rockabilly stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I started listening to a lot of early Elvis, and his guitarist Scotty Moore was probably one of the main influences on me. And then I sort of have been joking for years that I started at Elvis and have been working my way backwards through musical history. So there are a lot of things from like the the 60s and 70s, where a lot of people are like, "Oh, you gotta love this guy," and I'm like, I'm not that familiar with him because I started at the 50s and been working my way backwards.
Okay. Okay.
So a lot of the older players like Charlie Christian and Wes Montgomery and Django Reinhardt, some of the jazz guys like that.
You must have freaked when a guy like Brian Setzer came along.
Yeah.
He's incredible. And
Absolutely.
He's a stud. He's just a stud musician. I mean, rockabilly aside.
He's just a great player, all up and down the dial. He's one of those guys that I hope I never meet, because like I would just be the biggest fan
right?
for him. I'd be gushing, and it would just be embarrassing.
You and me both. I had to be honest with you. I mean, he blows me.
It's funny.
He's one of those guys where you just want to put it down and go, "I quit."
Well,
I just quit.
I've been more inspired by him, and because I know the guys you're talking about, like where you just go, I just think I'll make a fire tonight instead of
I'll just confirm my guitar.
But actually, I think my 16th birthday, actually, I had some friends that gave me the Stray Cats' first release in the U.S., Built for Speed, and I just about listened to the grooves off of that. But that's also about the same time that I discovered my mom's 45 of Les Paul and Mary Ford doing How High the Moon.
Ooh, wow.
And I literally listened to that song so much that it destroyed the 45.
It's amazing when folks have, over the years, especially guitarists, everybody knows what a Les Paul is.
Right.
But they don't know who Les Paul is. And I had the pleasure when I was 18 years old to meet him in Mahwah. He lived in Mahwah, New Jersey. Mm-hmm. And I worked in a music store in Mahwah, New Jersey, and the old man who owned the music store was friends with him. They were just friends, and so I was in there one day. It was like college age. I was like 18, and a kid came in with his mom during the day, and he wanted to play a Les Paul, so I took one out and let him play it. And I'll never forget it. I was sitting there, the kid's playing, the mom's looking at him, and the mom's shaking her head because they're not they're very expensive, obviously.
Yeah.
And then from behind me, I hear a voice go, "That's a really nice guitar." And I turn around, it's Les Paul, because he came in.
Wow.
Came in to talk to old man Ed, as Ed and Robbie's music in Mahwah. And I was it's one of those moments like where you're seeing Jesus or something, as a guitar player. You're like, oh my God. Oh my God.
Absolutely.
But, when you mentioned Les Paul, I mean, you go back and listen to him.
Yeah. An amazing player. And that's the funny thing too, is I sort of, was listening to the extreme ends of musical ability, because I was listening to the Cramps and stuff where it's like, oh, okay, that's a basic E chord. Yeah. And then you were listening also to Les Paul, just like, wow, two different ends of the spectrum.
Totally.
Yeah. And then, every week I would go to my local high school student symphony where I played cello. So I was playing in, I'm learning to play rockabilly. I'm playing in punk bands. And I'm also playing cello in the student symphony.
And you're only in second chair, right?
Actually, I was
just a freshman beating you out.
For a long time, I was the only chair. I was the only
right.
So I learned to play loud.
Chairs, actually. You're like, I'll play a little tuba.
I learned to play really loud, and if I got lost, it's like, well, just keep playing something. So
just add some Metallica in there. You'll always. Hey, listen, all those bands now, have gone the route of coming out with their music with a symphony.
Mm-hmm.
Metallica, Queen.
Right.
All these iconic, incredible bands have stepped out. Yngwie Malmsteen.
Well, one of the things about it, as my dad always explained to me, was that there's a timeless quality about classical and symphonic music. Mm-hmm. And the best example I can think of for that is if you watch the original Star Wars, 1977, A New Hope, Episode 4. The score for that it sounds classic. You know, you just you watch the movie and you're like, okay, this is great. The Terminator, which came out, I think, like 3 or 4 years after that, if you listen to that, it sounds like the rinky-dinkiest little Casio, like, because it was more modern, more cutting edge, you know. It was
right.
but you know, it doesn't age well. And the thing is like you listen to the Star Wars music, is like it could have been written today, it could have been written 500 years ago. There's a timeless quality to it.
Right. Right.
That's it. It's true. It's amazing though. But those Casio keyboards do have their place in society, I believe.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But the thing about Casio keyboards too is that they develop so quickly that you know, the cutting edge sound 30, 40 years later sounds really dated.
And then some.
I remember the first time I you know, working in a music store and you know, samplers became the thing. And I remember being blown away, just hitting one key and hearing like an airplane, you know, and you're like, oh my God, this is incredible. You know? Oh, the 80s.
Oh, yeah. Well.
Yeah.
So what do you have, you know, on the docket today? Like, you're writing some new stuff? Do you have anything coming out?
Well, actually, yeah, I have some things that I'm working on. I actually have a backlog of things. The biggest thing that I have working on in the near horizon, episode 3 of Quest of the Golden Butterfly. Quest for the Golden Butterfly, episode 1 is out. Episode 2 is also out. But then episode 3 is the one that have been working on, and hopefully I'm going to have that out around the turn of the next year. So probably early February or March, something like that.
Now, what is exactly the premise of the book?
I'm so glad you asked. It's basically a kind of an updated version of Jungle Adventures from, like, because when I was a kid in the 80s and before in the 70s, I used to love watching the Jungle Adventure movies. You know, like I would see them on Saturday afternoon on PBS or something, all these black and white ones. Yeah, and just the whole, you know, adventure genre. But then as an adult, they really don't hold up well. Speaking of things that don't hold up well over time, just because they're horribly racist. They're just, you know, if they needed an elephant to fall down, they just shoot one.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, I really don't want that. I like the genre, I like the idea, but wow, these are really, I can't even watch these. And so what I've kind of tried to do is to have a more updated modern sensibility, keeping the same kind of idea of the adventure. So I like to describe it to people too as Downton Abbey meets Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Excellent.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's the story of basically a British upper class family, a young boy who likes books, finds a map in an old book. He and his sister, you know, they find out that this map leads them to Africa, and so they hire a safari guide, and then, you know, adventures ensue, and things like that.
That's super
Okay.
cool.
And how have your books been accepted? I mean, are they doing well, or?
Well, they, you know, it's as I like to explain to people, it's kind of a tough sell at first. I'm at the beginning of a rags to riches story. Is another thing I like to say to people, because first of all, you have to try to figure out your market for, you know, who wants to read the type of thing that you want to make.
Mm-hmm.
And I've actually had fairly good success. I've been doing a lot of you know, like comic conventions and things like that. I was in LA for LA Comic Con a couple of years ago, where I discovered that was actually way too big of a convention for me at the moment.
Okay.
Because lots of people and lots of things. And it's very difficult to get people interested in something they've never heard of before. You know, hey, here's the product you never heard of by a guy you've never heard of. You should really look into it. They're like, No, but the guy from the guy from the Mandalorian's right over there. Like, okay, fair enough. I can't really fault you that one.
Well, yeah, I mean, you have to be in LA. You have to live in LA and know people in LA to really I think, get anywhere in LA with something like that.
Well, at least bypass a couple steps. You know?
Yeah.
Well, and so what I've I kind of figured out at that point, I was like, well, the thing too, I mean, LA Comic-Con was great. It was very interesting. There's a lot of fun things happening there. But I describe it as an 11-mile long buffet. It's like I don't care how good the food is at mile 10 and a half. Like after the first 25 feet, your plate's full. That's it. So
that's great.
I've actually had much better luck closer to home. I've had much better luck doing a lot of things. Like I do talks at libraries.
Okay.
And I've done some of the smaller conventions and things that have just turned out to be better because, for one thing, if you don't have huge stars there, people just have more time. Like they don't have to stand in line for 5 hours to get an autograph. They have 5 hours that they can just go look at stuff, and that's kind of where they discover the new things. And so that's one of the things. And I do have a small but loyal fan base that's keeping me on track, going like, hey, when's the next coming out?
Well, that's good. That's exciting to have that, though.
It is. The nicest thing about it to me is that I already have the whole thing is written. So the whole story arc is 500 pages, and each one of these episodes that I have out so far is I'm basically doing it about 100 pages at a time.
Okay.
Yeah, you're doing some work. I mean, you got quite a bit under your belt going on there. I mean, that you're going to have.
And you're a teacher too, right? Are you still a teacher? What do you?
Yeah. Well, some days I teach, and some days I just stand in front of bored teenagers and hear myself talk.
Yeah.
The cool thing is that at our age, Steve, you could still kind of relate a little bit. You could
a little bit.
Just a little bit.
I kind of remember being that young, but
less and less.
Yeah, but your life at that age was a lot different than what it is.
A lot simpler.
Yeah.
I was about to say that. Those kids today, they're way older than I was at that same age.
Not even by choice. It's just it's just the way it is.
What do you teach, Steve?
I teach art, actually.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So that's sort of the running joke of my life has been music versus art, and
but music is art too.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Are you doing your own illustration?
Yes, he does. Well, it's this.
Well, see, most people, if they have any sense or sanity, if they do a graphic novel or a comic book or something like that, they work with other artists, and they have like, okay, I'll do the sketches, then I'll have an inker do the inker, and I'll have somebody do the lettering, and somebody else do the coloring, and I just do everything.
Okay.
Skip the middleman and get what you want. Hey, listen, if you have the ability to do it, I mean, why wouldn't you? I mean, it's very hard for you to describe your vision to people, to put the ink to paper.
Right.
As opposed to you writing your story is one thing, but to try and illustrate it is a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, it's way easier because if you have, you have exactly in mind what you wanted to do.
Right. Right.
And so you really don't have to worry about that. The biggest problem though is just the time.
Yeah.
Because it just, there have been numbers of times where I've had to just stop looking at a page and just say like, move on. Like, you've already looked at this page longer than anyone ever will. No one will ever look at this page as long as you looked at it. Like, just move on. It doesn't matter.
And you're sweating and you're stressing and you're like,
Yeah. You're just like getting each little
not perfect.
Exactly.
Not perfect.
Yeah. And so I have my mantra that I keep taped up above my computer when I'm working on stuff is finished is better than perfect.
Okay. That's good. That's good. Just get it, get her done. Just get her done.
Thing. I also then am working on, this is last year's edition, I'm a little bit behind right now.
Oh, what
Halloween.
is that?
Yeah, so this is the Halloween sampler where I do.
Oh my God, look at that.
No way.
Yeah.
That is insane.
And so that's I've got another one of these coming out hopefully before the end of the year, but I'm just going to backdate it. People like Halloween no matter when. So,
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Oh
that's
yeah.
amazing.
there you go.
Oh, we did.
And this one right here, The Night Out in Pigtown, this is just a children's book.
Uh-huh.
Oh, you sent me that whole thing, which was
Right,
so
yeah.
cool. It was
Oh,
so cool. The music was incredible. I loved it.
Well, I was teaching elementary school at the time, and I was working with, elementary school kids, and we were just, they said, well, I can't think of anything to draw. I can't. And I said, well, if you can't think of anything, just like sort of pick one thing for the year. Just say, if I can't think of anything to draw, I'm just going to draw a pig.
Mm-hmm.
And, it was just sort of, I just grabbed it at random out of the air. And kids were like, well, what would you draw a pig doing? And I was like, I don't know. Let's just have them playing music. And so I had all these drawings of these pigs in different types of bands. So I started like, okay, here's a jazz pig playing in a jazz band. Here's a rock pig playing in a rock band. Here's a blues pig playing in a blues band.
Okay.
And so then before I knew it, I had a whole book's worth of these things. I thought, well, this looks kind of like a book. It really needs to have like a poem or something with it. And so I just sort of started messing around with it and came up with some words that I liked for it. So sort of like, in the city of pigs, as the sun goes down, the piggies are dressed to hit the town.
That's awesome.
And
I used to draw when I was in high school.
What was that?
I would draw eggs, like egg, like an egg.
Yeah.
It would be an egg sheriff,
Oh, nice.
or an egg football player, or an egg rock star with the hair. Like I would do something similar to that.
That's an excellent idea.
I was hoping you were going to say that.
Well, you didn't have
I was
to wait.
going to throw a penalty flag at you if you didn't.
Well, sometimes.
No, that's awesome. That really.
Yeah. No, when you sent that to me that day, I was like, it was like a crazy day. And all of a sudden I opened up your message and I'm like, oh my God, this is fabulous. And the music, I thought I was like in the Cotton Club or something,
Well, thank you.
And I was like, wow, this is like so great. I'm going to use this as a drop, for an
Please
introduction.
do. Yeah, feel free.
Yeah,
Hey,
definitely.
Steve, if I email you, would you send me a signed copy of that?
I'd be happy to. Yes, absolutely.
Oh, that'd be fantastic.
Wow, that is like so
That'd be
great.
fantastic.
Well, this is the thing about this is like I had the words, I had the drawings, and I was about to put it out as a book. And then I was talking to my sister, Mary Helen, and she said, it really needs music to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, it has music. Like every time I look at it, I just like hear the music. She's like, no, it needs to be where other people can hear it too. So I've made some phone calls, got some friends. I have a friend, Tim Stambaugh, who works over in New Orleans. He basically produces anything that you've heard recorded in New Orleans in the past 30 years. He's done.
Okay.
He's
Wow.
been involved doing it somehow. He does a
So
lot.
he's a Pro Tools master, and he knows how to pull off jingles, and he knows.
Yeah,
everything.
he knows how to get good sounds and great things like that. And then I called just a bunch of my friends that were musicians, all the people I play with in different bands, some classical friends of mine, some jazz friends of mine. And this all actually started coming together right as all the COVID lockdowns were happening.
Oh, okay.
I was able to, I really lucked out because I got a lot of my friends that I just called them up and I said, hey, I have this project. And they were like, yes.
Yeah.
So, like,
We have nothing going on right now.
yeah, it's like, do you want to hear what it is? They're like, I don't care. I just want to play. I've got a studio date. I'm there.
Perfect timing.
Yeah.
In the weirdest of ways.
Yeah, right.
Well, and that's the thing too, is I mean, we had delays. We had there were a couple of times that I had a session booked for that night. And then the trumpet player had COVID, so he couldn't be there. So I was like, okay, well, what else can I do? Who else can I get that night? And, but yeah, it all came together and I have about 12 13 different musicians from different continents and different countries. Just
wow, that's great.
yeah, it's very exciting. And the way that it works is that it has, QR codes on every page.
Mhm.
So there's no like CD to lose. There's no,
Sure.
record to scratch or things like that. You just scan a QR code and you can hear all the different songs.
That's the way to go.
My grandson had little books that have that. And my daughter said to me, "Oh, just scan the code and then, it'll play, but it doesn't play music. It's like people talking, like whatever the book is about.
Mhm.
They're talking." And he used to be like so into this. So yeah, that's really cool.
Well,
That's
I'm
very
starting
cool.
to do that in a lot of the new projects that I have coming up. For instance, in the Halloween one that I have coming up,
Uh-huh.
some ideas for that to have some little recording snippets and things.
That would be,
Okay, that's amazing too.
that's especially for the Halloween one. That's
Yeah.
super cool. I mean, you can really inject some funky stuff in there, and that's what I want the signed copy of. Halloween.
The Halloween.
Okay,
That's my
cool.
favorite. Oh, that's because the
All right.
artwork, the illustration was like just super.
Oh
super
yeah,
incredible.
really?
Well, actually, this has been the funniest thing because in one of my classes I teach at the high school, one of the exercises we do is, I try to get them to do a comic book story and say, okay. And then I just sort of say, all right, let's come up with a comic book character. And they're like, what, you mean like SpongeBob? I'm like, no, an original one. Okay.
Mhm.
And so I came up with this little vampire idea. Like I just drew like 3/4 of a circle with some like put a pointy ear on it and put a little chunk taken out of it. And the kids were like, well, what's that? I was like, it looks like a vampire with a really big nose. And so I drew it. And then I started having all these cartoon ideas that just sort of popped into my head.
Mhm.
And actually at all of at the conventions and things I've been to since I've had this out, this has been my biggest seller.
I can see that. Yes.
Everything about it just jumped out at me, and it's super cool.
Well,
And the vampire character kind of almost in a weird way reminds me of Sesame Street, the Count.
yeah,
Yeah, you're right. You're
Why?
right. You're right.
a big influence on me, definitely. Also very influenced by the old Pink Panther cartoons.
Oh
I
yes,
love Pink Panther.
think, Panther. Oh yes, absolutely.
There's just that whole Pink Panther show where they had like the aardvark and the ant, and they were
Yeah.
chasing after each other and things. That's kind of in my frame of reference for a lot of these. And
Well,
so I've
If you're
actually,
going to go down that rabbit hole, you might as well go with a little Rocky and Bullwinkle.
oh yeah,
Oh, yeah, they were good too.
well, I've been working on a lot of stories about the vampire, and he's developed much more personality than he did when see, the very first thing I came up with was the cartoon about a piano falling on him because he comes across a workman holding a rope, he bites him, and boom, instant payoff. There you go.
Like the Roadrunner.
That's true, Roadrunner. I was going to say
Exactly.
five tons on him.
Very Karma, an Acme kind of.
Acme, yes.
That's right. But I've come across the personality of him that he basically he's very bad at vampiring, and he doesn't like. There are a lot of things about being a vampire that he just like doesn't understand.
He can't get people's names right. He's just disheveled.
Right.
He's like an unmade bed.
Maybe he was smoking a little bit too much that day.
He's old school. He's like,
Well, also one of the things that I've started working on, I've just about finished a retelling of the short story, The Most Dangerous Game, which you might be familiar with, but
Yep.
It's about a hunter who lands on an island and then gets hunted by a crazed nobleman.
Okay,
And so
I don't know that.
I'm familiar with it.
And I was thinking, okay, well, imagine if the vampire did instead. So like the person saying, "Oh, I hunt people," is like, "Oh, okay, great. I'm not a person, but okay." It sort of fools the count into.
Oh, that's funny.
Oh,
Right.
he just doesn't care.
Yeah, and there's a whole exchange of like, the guy saying, "Oh, I'm going to hunt you. I hunt humans," and the vampire's like, "What? But I'm not." He's like, "No, you're protesting will not do any avail. It's like, okay, fine. What do I have to do? Like, evade me till dawn. I'm like, great. This works out really well for me. And he says,
and he's got like a coffin, and on the coffin there's a big sign that says, "I'm not in here."
Well, I have the guy who's saying I can trace any, the slightest footprint, and the vampire just sort of like goes, okay, and he turns.
Yeah, right. And off he goes.
He puts up like a fake shelf of garlic. That's awesome.
It's been love it. Now I just watch vampire movies just with an eye towards just thinking like, what would my vampire do in this situation?
Right.
Well, because now he is your vampire. You created him.
That's right.
So
he is yours.
Everything from here on out is just fuel for his future.
Does he have a name? Wait,
Wilbur. Yes, Wilbur the vampire.
Wilbur? Oh.
Wilbur. Yeah, it's all like Wilbur, but since he's vaguely Eastern European, I pronounce it Wilbur.
Wilbur.
He's got a little Transylvania accent,
That's right. Yeah.
Little downtown side of Transylvania.
He's on the wrong side of the track.
The south side of Transylvania.
Well, and
a bit more violent vampires down there.
Of course, that gives you lots of opportunities for him to get angry at people. It's Wilbur. No, it's Wilbur. But it's a W. Yeah, it's pronounced Wilbur. Why isn't it a V? It just isn't.
And he starts making Google jokes. Wilbur, why don't you Google me? What's wrong with you?
Yeah. It's also fun to do a vampire story because, with the longer lifespan of a vampire, you have a lot of opportunities to say like, okay, well, this one's set in 1860. Okay, this one's set in 1700. This one's in 1980. That kind of thing.
And they could go back. Right. And they could go backwards. I mean, they could go back to 1786 if they.
Or they could go to the future.
Yeah.
Well, and that's one of the things too that I've sort of decided is that one of his foibles is that he has a very bad memory, and so that way they don't have to really I don't do the stories in order. I just sort of do them as they come to me.
Random.
Yeah, and so at the beginning of each one, it sort of says 1860 or something like that, but he doesn't really change any. He's just saying,
well, because he's a vampire. He's not going to change. He's going to live forever.
Steve, what if he had this really, really creepy, crazy / cute Chihuahua named Fang, who was very protective of it? He walked around with it all the time, and it wouldn't let anybody near him. And he would just be like, Fang, relax.
Well, vampires do like their dogs to keep them safe. So,
That's true.
And he's got like a little garlic, collar.
Yeah, nice quirky little Chihuahua to keep everybody else away from him. I think that would be
you can't start us on this stuff because we'll just roll with it. I mean, next thing you know, Steve, we'll have 8 more books before we get off this.
Fantastic. Yeah, great.
You're going to take all your ideas.
I know, right? I came up with this quirky little vampire idea.
I met these people last night, and they gave me a lot of good ideas.
Well, sometimes I get ideas from people, yes, but I always credit them if they make it.
There you go, Eddie. You'll get credit for Fang.
There you go.
Yes. Hey, you introduce Fang, he's all mine. But hey, inspiration comes from everywhere, and I'm just super excited we had an opportunity to have you on. I think our listeners are gonna really thoroughly enjoy hearing your story and everything you have going on, and obviously will have go on because you have a lot down the pipe, obviously.
But do you ever sleep?
Actually,
he's the vampire. No.
Yeah, that's
he's got an I Heart Ambient shirt on right now.
My family suffers from what my mother always refers to as unnaps.
Unnaps.
Yeah, it's like, in the middle of the day, you go to sleep for a couple of hours. In the middle of the night, I usually wake up for a couple of hours. I stopped fighting it about 4 or 5 years ago. And so usually about 1 to 2 o'clock in the morning, I wake up and I work on these things for a couple of hours and I go back to sleep. So
Okay.
we just talked about this on another broadcast with another artist, and we called it, what was it, monkey brain?
Monkey brain.
Because
Yeah.
I go through the same thing where you wake up and it's just ideas and thoughts and
Yeah.
you can't stop. You can't. There's no way out.
Yeah.
You know.
And
It's like a gerbil on a wheel. It's just going.
Yes. And the best thing to do is not to fight it, to get up and go with it. And I've finished like 6 or 7 books this way.
Wow.
It's like, well, you can sit there just going, why can't I fall asleep? Why can't I fall asleep? Or you can just say, all right, fine, let me just get up and
work on my book. Yeah.
Well, the trick is I needed to learn how to document everything that's going through my mind, because then you do eventually fall asleep and you wake up and you forget everything that you just thought of that was in your head at that moment brilliant.
Right.
Well,
and there have been I'm very interested in the creative process and how various artists of various types do things. A lot of people keep, it's like a notebook right by their bed.
Mm-hmm. Or just talking to your phone. Someone said that, just talking to your phone.
And as a matter of fact, the guitarist for the Rolling Stones, right?
Mm-hmm.
So his name escapes me at the moment.
Keith or
no, it's Keith. So back in the 60s, Keith had all these ideas, and he kept an 8-track recorder next to his bed. And so, or it was a cassette recorder, and he would just, press record when he got an idea, and he'd just play something, and he'd, press stop. One morning he woke up and he sees that the tape is all the way wound to the end. And he didn't remember anything about, hitting the buttons or anything like that. He rewinds it, and he hits play. He hears the riff from Satisfaction.
Really?
It plays like one time, like da 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 da, and then he hears,
oh my God.
hey, the rest of the 45 minutes was just him snoring. He played just that, and if he hadn't hit play and record, that song would not.
You wouldn't have satisfaction.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Well, you know what I found was when I was doing some stand up, you'd get up at night and you'd think and you'd write things down. And that was always the true test of if someone was really funny, is when you woke up the next day and you read it.
Right.
Did you laugh?
Right.
Or were you like, oh my God, what
was I thinking of?
That's, but not even just comedy, but even music, like just musical ideas and riffs or lyrics or whatever. I mean, a lot of times people like us suffer from, that 1 to 3 syndrome where you're just awake and your brain is just cranking.
Yeah.
And there's no, like you said, you just kind of got to cave to it and just realize it out.
Just go with it. Absolutely. And you just, you sort of see where it takes you. Plus, the nice thing about the 1 to 3 in the morning is that you have way fewer distractions, because it's not like anybody's going to stop in and just say something. It's like
nobody's going to be texting you or
honestly,
you or
have
whatever.
0 distractions except like your dog I'd just start eating your face. That's about it, because
about it. Yeah.
My dog is like, what, you're awake? Oh, get out. Like, oh no,
it's time to play. It's time to play, right? No, not time to play.
Oh, no, it's 1 a.m. But no, you have no distractions. You have peace and quiet. You could think.
Yep, absolutely.
And I don't know what to call it. I don't know if it's a syndrome, if it's just an artist thing, but it is very common for a lot of us. No matter what, whether it's music or art, whatever.
And actually, even science, because I've heard that like Henry Ford and Thomas Edison actually did a lot of their work at that kind of. Thomas Edison used to keep he kept a pie pan, and he put some ball bearings in his hand, and he'd sit there at his desk at like whatever time of day or the time of night when he was trying kind of halfway falling asleep, and when he would fall asleep, the ball bearings would fall out of his hand into the pan, and wake him up, because he found his best ideas came at that kind of that twilight, not quite awake, frame of mind.
Kind of frame of mind, yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Very interesting.
But it is true.
Yeah,
it's true.
Absolutely.
That's
Fun.
true, because it's very frustrating when you want to just do nothing more than sleep. your wife's next to you, just Craig snoring, the cat, the dog. I'm like, everybody is
like,
just
this is
so
this is great. I love the creativity,
except for
but
me.
I'd like to just sleep.
I know.
That's funny. Well, Steven, it's been a pleasure having you on our show. You are
Thanks so much
amazing
for having me.
person. You are really amazing. You've got your hand into so many things, but they're all very, very interesting, and they're really great too.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
You know?
And I will email you, Steven, for a copy of that Halloween book.
Yeah.
Yeah, do that.
Oh, cool. So cool.
But you have to be one of our podcasts where we're going to check back with you in 6 months and see if you don't mind. Check back.
Oh,
with
no,
you
I'd
and
love
see,
that.
What's going on, what you're doing, how your new book is doing, what's coming out. If you don't mind,
I'd
put
love
you
it.
down to check back with you. Yeah. Okay.
Sign me
That's
up.
great.
I have a feeling that Steven's going to just say screw everything, and he's just going to open up his own casino in Mississippi.
Okay.
And next time we see him, he's just going to have like a purple hat on with a cane. Like, he's going to be so loaded.
I like this idea. I'm good with this. What?
And then he's going to lie to us and go, my book's doing really good.
Yeah.
I'll have the Wilbur Vampire Casino.
Wilbur, I got Wilbur shirts everywhere.
That's right. Absolutely.
Honestly, Steve, thank you so much.
Oh, sure thing.
All of our fans, we are funnymuns.com. If you go on our website, you'll see that we have a store with crazy little things there. And we also have 2 organizations that we're very involved with, and that's Women's Breast Cancer and St. Jude's Children's Hospital. So when you go on our site, you will see that big purple button. And if you're able to make a donation, that's wonderful. They do a lot of very good things. And we are a video podcast, so we're on Spotify and YouTube, but then on audio on every major platform. So we're on every Tuesday, and I will let you know when your episode is going to air, and you can share it with all of your friends, which would be wonderful. And it was really great to have you on. I'm so excited that we got to meet you. And we are going to be a fan of your work because it's really phenomenal. I really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed you. So
thanks a lot, y'all. It's been fun talking to you.
Yes. So to everybody out there, I say be happy, be healthy, be wise, be non-judgmental, and enjoy life. And don't forget to laugh, because laughter is the best medicine. Bye-bye now.
Thank you, Steven.
Thank you.
Sure thing. Thank y'all. I appreciate it.